The unconscious language of digital interfaces, a framework for principled and inclusive design rooted in the aesthetics of gender, color, and passion. Executive summary. Digital interfaces, often perceived as neutral conduits for information, are in fact imbued with a complex and powerful aesthetic language. The strategic application of principles related to gender, color, emotion, whether conscious or unconscious, can profoundly shape user perception, guide behavior, and cultivate a sense of belonging or conversely exclusion. This report presents a comprehensive framework for understanding this aesthetic foundation of human-computer interaction. It synthesizes foundational theories from linguistics, psychology, and anthropology to demonstrate that the visual and linguistic choices made by designers are not superficial, but are a fundamental layer of a product's ethical and functional architecture. By moving beyond traditional usability metrics to embrace emotional and inclusive design, professionals can create digital experiences that are not only effective but also equitable, trustworthy, and deeply resonant with a diverse global audience. This investigation highlights that a principled approach to design requires a nuanced understanding of how aesthetic cues can unconsciously affect a user's sense of self and their relationship with a digital product. 1. Introduction: Deconstructing the Aesthetic Foundation of HCI. The evolution of human-computer interaction has moved beyond the singular focus on functionality to a more holistic understanding of user experience. The modern digital product is expected to be more than a tool. It is a companion, a community, and an extension of the user's identity. This shift places a new emphasis on the aesthetic and emotional dimensions of design. 1.1. The aesthetic imperative in HCI. The theoretical foundation for this approach is captured in the concept of emotional design, pioneered by Donald Norman. This model asserts that a product's effectiveness is not solely determined by its usability, but is significantly shaped by the emotional connection it forges with the user. Emotional design operates on three distinct levels of processing: visceral, behavioral, and reflective. The visceral level involves an immediate subconscious reaction to the product's aesthetics, its look and feel. The behavioral level concerns the usability and functionality of the interface and how well it helps the user achieve their goals. Finally, the reflective level addresses the long-term impact of the product on the user, encompassing brand loyalty, memory, and personal satisfaction. The aesthetics of a digital product, including its color palette, imagery, and typography, are the primary drivers of the visceral response. When a product is designed with a thoughtful aesthetic, it can create a sense of delight and excitement in the user. This initial impression, however, is merely the entry point. The true significance of these choices lies in their capacity to influence a user's behavior and, ultimately, to foster a lasting, positive emotional bond and a sense of belonging, goals that operate at the behavioral and reflective levels of emotional design. Merely using color or gender aesthetics for their immediate surface-level appeal is a superficial application of these principles. A more profound and ethical approach understands that these aesthetic choices are the foundational building blocks upon which trust and community are constructed. A designer's choice to use a calming blue, a vibrant red, or a gender-neutral visual language is not simply an artistic decision, it is a strategic act that anticipates user needs, reduces friction, and contributes to a coherent, trustworthy user experience. This holistic view of aesthetics in HCI argues that visual design choices are not simply about making a product beautiful, but about using visual language to build meaningful relationships with users. 2. The aesthetic dimensions of language and thought, a multidisciplinary perspective. The visual and linguistic elements of a digital interface are not designed in a vacuum. They are filtered through the cognitive and cultural frameworks of both the designer and the user. A multidisciplinary exploration of these frameworks reveals the profound and often unconscious influence of language and culture on our perception of gender, color, and emotion. 2.1. Grammatical gender, the unseen influence of language on perception. Linguistics demonstrates that grammatical gender is a fundamental system of noun classification present in nearly half of the world's languages, including Italian and Spanish. While it is sometimes related to biological sex, as with il bambino in Italian, it is more often an arbitrary assignment based on the noun's morphological or phonological properties. Its primary functions in these languages are to express distinctions in animate beings, to disambiguate pronouns, and to animate inanimate objects in literature. For example, in German, the word for flower bed is neuter, whereas garden is masculine. This distinction allows the grammatical gender of a relative pronoun to clarify which object is being referenced, thereby preventing ambiguity. In French, Grammatical gender can even distinguish homophones, such as lapot and lapo. This linguistic system is more than a simple rule of grammar, it subtly shapes how speakers conceptualize the world. Research on speakers of Spanish and German languages with grammatical gender reveals a tendency to ascribe gendered qualities to inanimate objects. For instance, a study found that German speakers described a masculine key as hard, heavy, and useful, while Spanish speakers described a feminine key as golden, intricate, and little. This phenomenon extends to the artistic realm, where painters from different linguistic backgrounds may personify abstract ideas such as death as either male or female based on the grammatical gender of the word in their native language. The use of masculine generic forms can also introduce a male bias into language. Studies indicate that when a masculine plural form is used to refer to a group of both men and women, readers tend to form male-specific mental representations, even when a gender-neutral interpretation is available. This bias is so deeply ingrained that it can override semantic and stereotypical information. This linguistic influence extends directly to the design process. A designer's native language acts as an unconscious cognitive bias, a mental shortcut that can lead to subtle but flawed decisions. A designer from a grammatically gendered language may unconsciously personify digital products or features as male or female, affecting their visual presentation, microcopy, and overall interaction design. For instance, a designer might instinctively choose a more stereotypically feminine color palette and a soft, curved aesthetic for a feminine product based on the subconscious gender of its name in their language. This represents a pervasive form of bias that can affect a design long before a single visual element is created. The path to truly inclusive design requires designers to possess an awareness of their own linguistic frameworks and the unconscious biases they may introduce.